Cristiano Ronaldo just ruined Fatal Fury. Every day I wake up more confused as I slowly realise that it appears that we all live in a simulation. Facts are repeatedly becoming stranger than fiction, as unfortunately the phrase, "I main Cristiano Ronaldo in Fatal Fury" will soon exist. That's right, in what is without a doubt the weirdest crossover in fighting games ever, one of the greatest footballers of all time just joined the Fatal Fury roster, implying that a shared universe between SNK and FIFA is a thing, and debatably canonising Mugen in the process. So, in today's utterly bizarre upload, let's discuss why this absurdity is happening and try to wrap our heads around what all of this even means. Is this a cash grab? A fever dream? A rogue intern at SNK finally getting their way after being ignored for 10 years? Perhaps it's all of these things. However, if you've been paying attention to the strange goings-on in recent years, then as ridiculous as this looks on the surface, there's actually a very logical reason behind it, no matter how completely wrong it all feels. So, let's get into it. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Big Daddy Top Hat here. This is the real reason Cristiano Ronaldo is ruining Fatal Fury. Yeah! Fighting games are bloody marvellous, aren't they? But do you know what's even better than watching videos about fighting games? Buying them for next to nothing. Right now you can grab Mortal Kombat 1 with a bone-crunching 65% off, Tekken 8 with a mighty 64% off, and Street Fighter 6 at a staggering 74% off, plus huge discounts on character passes to round out your rosters. Use my links down below for thousands of great deals, so happy gaming and happy shopping. Fatal Fury City of the Wolves has sparked major excitement among fighting game fans, and for good reason. As the long-awaited sequel to Garo Mark of the Wolves, a beloved cult classic released all the way back in 1999, this new entry marks SNK's return to the iconic series after more than 2.5 decades. The anticipation has only been heightened by the stylish modern visual direction and fluid combat system teased so far, which seem to merge classic Fatal Fury DNA with the refinements of modern fighters. The game's hype has also been boosted thanks to official Street Fighter 6 crossovers, which not only validate SNK's relevance in today's fighting game scene, but also introduce Terry and other Fatal Fury characters to an entirely new audience. For many fans, this feels like a long overdue homecoming and a chance for the Fatal Fury name to finally reclaim its place in the spotlight. But, for me at least, a shadow has always hung over this project. And the ridiculous addition of Cristiano Ronaldo has only highlighted my concerns further. While Fatal Fury City of the Wolves is certainly shaping up to be a slick and satisfying fighter on the surface, the decision to include a real-world footballer, no matter how famous, feels like a cheap, tacky marketing stunt that undermines the gritty, grounded tone the series has always been known for. Mark of the Wolves thrived on its raw atmosphere, its carefully crafted cast of misfits and martial artists, not bizarre celebrity cameos. Instead of doubling down on what made the original so special, it now seems like SNK is chasing headlines, not heart, and that leaves me wondering just how faithful this so-called sequel will truly be. Players have waited 26 years to see the next chapter of Fatal Fury unfold, clinging to the legacy of Mark of the Wolves and hoping for a worthy continuation of its narrative. But now, with the inclusion of Cristiano Ronaldo, the immersion is already being completely shattered. What was once a focused, fictional universe grounded in street brawls, personal vendettas and underground tournaments is now being polluted by tone-breaking appearances and, in my opinion, thinly veiled political messaging, which we shall soon get to discussing. For a series that built its cult status on atmosphere and authenticity, this new direction feels not only misguided, but like a betrayal of everything fans held dear. Cristiano Ronaldo's inclusion is quite frankly insulting. He isn't a fighter, he's a footballer, no more for his theatrics than his toughness. Anyone who's watched his career knows he's partly made a name for himself by taking dives, dramatically rolling around on the floor in agony, and doing everything possible to win a foul rather than win challenges fairly. Ironically, he's also been known to deliberately goad opponents into lashing out, weaponising his ego and reputation to provoke reactions. But that's psychological gamemanship, not martial arts. Dropping him into a cast of gritty, battle-hardened warriors completely breaks the illusion and makes a mockery of the entire game's tone. It's like throwing a porcelain teacup into a bar brawl and expecting it to come out in one piece. But like I said, if you've been following what's been transpiring in the last few years, you will know exactly why this is happening. As of now, SNK is majority owned by the Saudi Arabian government, specifically through their sovereign wealth fund. The same one whose crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, has been accused of everything from brutally silencing dissent to orchestrating the murder of journalists, and yet they now own one of Japan's most iconic fighting game developers. In fact, I came under fire from some in my YouTube comments for highlighting how uncomfortable I was with the situation when it was first unfolding back in 2022. At the time, simply pointing out that one of gaming's most beloved companies had been quietly swallowed up by a regime known for human rights violations was apparently enough to trigger a small army of defenders. Some accused me of being political, as if acknowledging reality is somehow a partisan act. Others tried to paint the takeover as a positive, claiming it was just a new investment or cultural exchange, ignoring the very real ethical implications behind where that money came from and what it's being used to whitewash. There was also a heavy dose of whataboutism, people deflecting with comments like, well, America's not perfect either, or why didn't you say anything when Tencent bought into insert company here? As if silence elsewhere somehow invalidates legitimate criticism in this case. The truth is, people don't like having their escapism disrupted. They don't want to be reminded that the games they love are now bankrolled by authoritarian regimes. It makes them uncomfortable, so instead of confronting it, they lash out at the messenger. But I still stand by what I said. Just because something comes wrapped in glossy PR and a familiar controller doesn't mean we shouldn't question it. Especially when the end goal is to make us forget where that money came from and who is helping to rebrand. Sadly, as I've made providing fighting game coverage to you all a key part of how I survive, both creatively and financially, it's been pretty much impossible for me to ignore SNK titles entirely. Their games are an integral part of fighting game history, and they continue to shape the genre today. SNK is baked into the DNA of the content I produce. And yet, every time I talk about one of their games now, there's a lingering unease, this nagging feeling that I'm inadvertently playing a role in polishing the image of something I fundamentally disagree with. I don't want to pretend that SNK's games are suddenly bad, they're not. In fact, many of them are fantastic. But enjoying them now comes with an uncomfortable caveat of knowing exactly who's profiting in the background. It's a moral tightrope I didn't ask to walk. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not pretending to be some kind of moral authority or saint in all of this. I'm well aware that I'm no innocent. I cover games for a living. I use platforms owned by massive tech corporations with questionable ethics, and like most people, I've probably benefited from systems that I've criticised. I'm not standing on a soapbox claiming moral purity, I'm just trying to be honest about the uncomfortable realities that come with being part of this industry, especially when money and power start to influence the things we love. In truth, I've actually tried to put SNK's ownership to the back of my mind. Not because I'm okay with it, but because constantly dwelling on it while trying to enjoy or critique a game can become mentally exhausting. Like many others, I've done my best to compartmentalise, to focus on the artistry, the gameplay, the legacy, rather than the unsettling politics behind the curtain. But then, Cristiano Ronaldo shows up in Fatal Fury, and suddenly, that thin layer of detachment is completely shattered. It's no longer something you can quietly ignore. It's a giant, immersion-breaking reminder of exactly who owns this franchise now. It feels like the final nail in the coffin of subtlety. As if the game itself is now proudly shouting, yes, we've been bought, and we're not even pretending to be a Japanese franchise anymore. At the centre of all of this is Saudi Vision 2030, a sweeping strategic framework launched by the Saudi government with the aim of transforming Saudi Arabia's economy and global image. On paper, it's about reducing the country's reliance on oil, diversifying into new industries like tech, tourism and entertainment, and presenting Saudi Arabia as a modern nation ready for the 21st century. In practice, however, it's also been a masterclass in PR manipulation. A glossy rebranding effort designed to make the world forget about the regime's troubling track record on human rights. One of the most effective tools in this rebrand has been what is often referred to as sportswashing, the act of using high-profile sports events, teams and personalities to launder a country's international image. By investing billions into football clubs, boxing events, Formula 1 races, golf tours and esports tournaments, the Saudi government isn't just attracting tourism or diversifying the economy, it's associating its name with beloved, globally unifying pastimes. The idea is simple. If people see Ronaldo scoring goals or streamers playing Saudi-funded games like Fatal Fury, they're less likely to focus on the dubious acts they are more well known for. And it doesn't stop at sports. There's also entertainment washing, a close cousin to sports washing, where the same tactic is applied to video games, movies, concerts and pop culture. With the acquisition of companies like SNK and investments in anime, theme parks and even Hollywood projects, Saudi Arabia is embedding itself into the global entertainment ecosystem. By doing this, the benefit for the Saudi government is enormous. By associating itself with beloved cultural icons and products, it shifts international focus away from its authoritarianism and towards its progress. Critics get drowned out by the roar of football fans or the buzz of a new game launch, and because these investments create jobs, boost economies and enrich influencers, plenty of powerful people have a vested interest in staying quiet about where the money's coming from. And if you're not paying attention, it's disturbingly easy to forget who's really pulling the strings behind your favourite match, movie or game. Cristiano Ronaldo isn't just a bystander in all of this, he's infamously linked to all of it. His move to Al Nassr wasn't just a career pivot, it became a symbol of Saudi Arabia's sportswashing campaign practically overnight. He was one of the first truly global megastars to throw his weight behind the regime's Vision 2030 project, smiling for the cameras and cashing in while the world watched. So seeing him, specifically him, showing up in Fatal Fury isn't some quirky cameo or harmless bit of fun, it's the most on-the-nose, immersion-shattering reminder of who owns SNK and what they're using it for. Out of every character on Earth to crowbar into a fighting game, they chose the face of Saudi soft power, a living, kicking emblem of exactly what so many of us were trying our best to ignore. For the record, I do want to clarify something. Last time I spoke about this, I made the mistake of not making my position entirely clear. So let me fix that now. I'm not telling you to stop buying SNK games. I'm not here to police anyone's purchases or guilt trip people for enjoying a fighting game. We all draw our moral lines in different places, and I completely understand that for many, games are a form of escapism, not a battleground for geopolitics. My goal isn't to shame anyone, but to point out truths that often get buried beneath the hype. What you do with that information is entirely up to you. I know that most of you have far more direct and personal problems to deal with, whether it's the cost of living, work stress, or just trying to make it through the week. The last thing you need is some moral grandstanding over a video game. But I also believe that being informed matters, even if it's just to be aware of the bigger picture behind the things we enjoy. And just to be absolutely clear, my issue isn't with the people of Saudi Arabia. Ordinary citizens aren't to blame for the actions of those in power. I just have plenty of criticisms for their government, just as I do for the ones throughout the West as well. From corruption to hypocrisy, there's no shortage of rot at the top, no matter what side of the world you're on. The difference is, living in what we call the free world, it's my right to criticise, and I intend to exercise that right. If we can't question where our entertainment money is coming from, or who's shaping the culture we consume, then what exactly are we defending when we talk about freedom of expression? Now, more on the subject of Cristiano Ronaldo specifically, when I first criticised that SNK were being bought out by Saudi interests, a lot of people rushed to defend the move, claiming that nothing would change, that the games would remain untouched, the integrity of the series preserved, and that this was just a financial backing, not a creative takeover. But now, with Cristiano Ronaldo quite literally round-kicking his way into Fatal Fury, these reassurances have aged like milk in the desert sun. This isn't subtle. It's not respectful. It's a garish, immersion-breaking PR stunt that completely undermines the tone, legacy and world-building of a franchise. All those people who swore they'd never go that far, well, here we are. Don't say I didn't warn you. Don't forget, right now you can grab Mortal Kombat 1 with a bone-crunching 65% off, Tekken 8 with a mighty 64% off, and Street Fighter 6 at a staggering 74% off, plus huge discounts on character passes to round out your roster. Use my links down below for thousands of great deals. Happy shopping and cheerio.